For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Hope everybody else is having a great day out there. It is starting to cool off here in Texas, as Emma, our guest today, Emma Caroline. We're just talking. It's cooling off, but it's kind of a little bit of a misleading thing going on because it's going to heat right back up next week. So, but anyways, I hope you guys are enjoying your day and have had a great week. And thank you. I just want to take this moment to thank everybody for all their support as we've continued to try and grow our community here on Twitch. And, we're trying to bring all the people over from Facebook and whatnot, but really appreciate all the support we've had and all that fun stuff. But enough jabbering from me. Let's bring in our guest. We have Emma Caroline, based out of Nashville, but you're from Tuscaloosa. I picked that up really quickly on your audition tape the audition on The Voice. Really glad to have you on the podcast. Really excited to sit down and chat with you a little bit. For anybody that's just kind of getting to meet you for the first time, kind of take this opportunity to introduce yourself, give a little bit of a background on who you are, kind of like a comic book origin story, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Emma Caroline. Like you said, I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I live in Nashville currently. I have for almost 5 years now. Singer-songwriter. I love a lot of types of music, but I would say country, folk is kind of my focus. I grew up singing in church, and that's like really special to me, which kind of led me to start recording because my first release was a worship EP, and then moving to Nashville just focused more on like country. In my spare time, I love to read and spend time with my family. I go home a lot. That's important to me. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, so how did you originally get introduced to music? Who was like the catalyst to getting you introduced to music? Just like in general, not necessarily the idea of performing, but just in general, who was the catalyst of introducing you to music?
So my dad he has not a music bone in his body. He cannot like dance or like hold a tune or anything, but he listens to like really great music. And so I grew up like listening to the music that he would listen to. And like we still share music like back and forth today. But my uncles on both sides sing. So two of my uncles were in a bluegrass band growing up. And then my other uncle was in a cover band growing up. So at family functions, there was always like a guitar or like someone singing. So I guess it just like came that way.
Awesome.
Definitely not for my parents.
Hey, it's kind of funny how that just kind of happens to always work out. It's very rare that a musician has musical parents. Like sometimes it happens, but it seems like it's a little bit more common for musicians to not have musical parents. So
I know. Like I don't really know exactly where it came from, but it came from somewhere.
Gotcha. And so when you started, is that kind of where you started playing music? Is when you were at like family functions, the guitar would be sitting there, and how did you kind of start playing music?
Yeah, I would say that way, but also just being involved in church. I grew up singing like as a kid, like at church performances, and like I was in a chapel band at my school. So really I'd say like first starting music was really worship for me and just being in the church and being around that, but definitely also just like being around at family functions and people singing. But I also would say just from the music that my dad introduced me to, like I would just like felt that music and I would just start singing to it, and I just loved it. And ever since I was just like a little kid, I've just loved music. And that's what my parents have always told me is I've always been singing and walking in the room singing and singing more than I'm talking, and
Yeah. Gotcha. That's cool. And then at that time, I'm assuming you're kind of doing more cover stuff or singing other people's music. Where did you kind of start finding your ability to write music or find your creative outlet in that lane?
I'd say more so in high school when I really started going through different things. I was, bullied some in high school, and my parents, went through their stuff. And so just like through my experiences, I felt like writing was the only way to truly like get it out for me. And like releasing a song and singing that song is such a release for me to get it out. And it's like the only way I can get things off my chest and feel like I'm in a healing process is to write about it and sing about it. And I'd say that's just like what my goal is for my music, is like to sing people through their like good and bad times. Cause I definitely had artists that just their music during certain times of my life was just like healing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are always really interesting stories when musicians have those. When musicians have those musicians from their childhood that just kind of they were able to relate to. Yeah. So when you were kind of going through, who are some of those musicians? I'm going to just ask that question straight out. Who are some of those musicians that you were listening to at that point in your life?
Well, my mom, I grew up on Fleetwood Mac, so I feel like I get a lot of like stuff from her. And then I love Brandi Carlile. She's kind of like a rock folky singer. So a lot of that. And also like, I just love like a lot of random songs. So, I have particular artists that like I love, but I just remember like as a kid, like being like, I like this song from this artist and this song from this artist. And this, it's like just a modge of like stuff all over the board.
Yeah. It was building a Spotify playlist before Spotify was even really a thing.
I burned CDs and all that. Yeah. So I did that before Spotify. I'd always have like a burned CD in my car.
Yeah. That was my favorite part of like more high school, because I didn't do a lot of the CD burning when I was in high school, just because I didn't have a fancy enough computer to do like CD burning. But just doing like mixtapes, old school mixtapes. Yeah. I'd saved up money to buy a CD changer, like a 5-disc CD changer that you could get at like Target or something for $100 or whatever it was. And then I would just take like these CDs that I would buy and just build mixtapes off of a cassette tape player. Yeah. And that was just kind of a weird labor of love.
I loved it. And like me and my friends would like swap mixtapes. So like we would like, this is what I'm listening to right now. So I liked doing that. I wish we did that more. I guess you can make a playlist for people now, but I guess it's not as common.
It's not yes, you can, but it's just one of those things where it's like, it's not like sitting there for 3 hours building out the perfect mixtape because you had to listen to every song. Or even even doing CDs, that was still a pretty intensive process.
Definitely. There's a lot of love in those CDs for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. So growing up in Tuscaloosa, what's the music scene kind of like in Tuscaloosa?
Oh gosh, I feel like, it's a college town, so there's definitely their fair share of cover bands. But moving to Nashville was the most amazing thing, coming and being with so many people that love to do what I love to do, which is not only singing, but writing music. I feel like when I was in Tuscaloosa, it was hard to find people to write with. I mean, no one really wrote music there. I was lucky to have like one friend in high school who was super passionate about music. But besides that, it was, people just weren't as focused on it there. So that's why, like, I just knew from like a young age I wanted to move to Nashville. I mean, I've wanted to move here since I was little, and it's lived up to everything just because I am surrounded by so much talent and people wanting to do the exact same thing as me. Like, the passion is like crazy.
Yeah. And how long have you been in Nashville at this point?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, nice.
Yep. It's a 5-year town, so maybe it's working for me soon.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I interview, or I have a lot of musicians from Nashville on, and most of them move there. As I'm sure you could attest to, most of them move there from out of town. And, every time I talk to people that move there, they just give me these stories about why I need to be there, and it's like, I know,
Yeah,
it's the right place. I understand this, but I'm
definitely is.
I'm not just gonna move there.
Yeah, well, it seems like you get a lot of traction like with musicians, so I think it's working for you. Maybe you don't need to move to Nashville.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But no, Nashville is such a cool town, and I understand the appeal, and especially for a musician and a country musician, just kind of Nashville has that mass appeal, and even like nowadays, just kind of some of the musicians I bring on, it's not all country musicians anymore. Like they still very much have that that stigma of being a country music town, and that's not accurate anymore. So
No.
it's yeah.
There's so much music here, and I say like I'm a country, singer, like folky, but like I feel like I'm everything, and I've always said like I don't want to be put in a box because I love so much music and so many different types. What I'm passionate about is just like the words and like how it makes someone feel. So if that is like rock and roll, like blues, like I'll do that. Like it doesn't matter if I believe in the song and the words, then like that's all I need. But you're right, there's so much music in Nashville. I mean, the pop scene's getting super big here. So it's cool. There's just a lot of different like inspiration to draw from in this town. So
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been in Nashville for about 5 years, and just from like everything that I can gather, your life has been really good in Nashville. Like just listening to a lot of the music, seeing a lot of the. You were on The Voice. 2020 or 2021?
2020 and 2021. So it was like I started in October and I think we ended in like March.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
Right in the thick of COVID. So it was tested every other day, like went through all that.
Yeah. Was The Voice something that you had always wanted to do? Was it something that you just did because of Nashville? Let's kind of jump into that for a little bit.
Yeah, so before I moved to Nashville, I auditioned and I made it to like the callback where they fly you out to LA. And before that, I just hadn't had much experience with like performance. I had definitely been on stage, like leading worship and stuff like that. But when it came to like performance, I didn't have a lot of experience. So when I auditioned like years before I got on, I definitely think I was at a point that I was ready, which was hard because in that moment I couldn't see that. But now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. But so I didn't make it when I first auditioned, and then I moved to Nashville, got a lot of experience under my belt, and had someone reach out to me online, like a talent scout or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. Why not just try it? And like COVID was going on and, the world was shut down. So we weren't really able to perform anyway. So I was like, the least I'll get to like do music, and that's amazing. So yeah, the timing was right that time. And I have no regrets. I had the best experience.
And had you watched The Voice when you were growing, or like when it was first coming up? It's hard to believe that The Voice has been around for over 10 years already.
I know. I was season 20, so that's like crazy that they've had that many seasons. I definitely grew up. I grew up watching all those shows, American Idol, America's Got Talent, The Voice. I just like The Voice because it's more of a learning experience, and I'm always like looking to like get better at what I do. So and that happened for me for sure.
Yeah, the Voice was always cool. Like when I was in college, season 2, we had just moved into like a duplex situation of me and a bunch of my buddies, and season 2 was getting ready to wrap, and one guy was like, "Hey, you guys got to watch this show. It's awesome." And I think it was like the season finale of season 2, and we started betting on who was going to win.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one of those things where then like the Super Bowl came around and season 3 kicked off, and we're like, all right, we're doing bigger bets this time. And it just kind of became this thing that we did where we would just start betting on who we thought was going to win. And then.
And now they have like an app now where you can like build your own team and everything. So you can get really, really like interactive with it, which is super fun.
Yeah. So you were on season 20. Can you kind of walk us through the what your audition process was like, and like once you, not audition process, but like once you got on TV, you did that audition, and then you kind of made it, or you made it through the battles and then the knockouts. Am I?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, I made it to the first, or I was in the 4-way knockout. So I made it to
Yeah.
the first live shows. What people don't know is like the audition process before you get on TV is a lot. So we've already been through like 3 or 4 rounds of auditions, it feels like, and questions and like this and that and the other. But yeah, so they fly you out and like you have your first audition, and they definitely prepare you for it. So, you know, they're coaching you through, not like the coaches, but the behind the scenes people are coaching you through your song and how you can be better at it. So you definitely, by the time you step on that stage, you feel ready. And like, if you're not, like, it's so ingrained in your mind from doing it so much that your body will just do it from muscle memory.
Yeah.
Because when I stepped on the stage and auditioned, like, I don't remember a thing because I was so nervous, but my body like knew what it was doing because I had practiced like 372 times. And so I just did it. And yeah, so made it. Blake and Kelly turned, picked Blake, Team Blake. And then, yeah, you just kind of hit the ground running, and you go into battles, and my battle partner ended up winning the whole season. And he's like one of my like closest friends from our season. He's great. We just did a show in Iowa together, which was fun.
Nice.
And then to the knockouts, because I got saved by Blake, and and then America votes for the knockout. So made it to the first live show. Didn't get picked for the knockout, but that's okay because I got to make it for one live show and be with everyone, which was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I was looking, back beginning of the pandemic, right before season 20, we had Andrew Marshall on the podcast. Like, he was, like, I mean, it was only like 6-9 months later, but he was really young. It was a really interesting conversation. And then I went. What's that?
He lives like literally. I could walk to his house.
Yeah.
And he played guitar for me last week. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. It's just kind of getting to that point now where it's like, oh, I'm starting to see the connective tissue with a lot of the musicians that we work with. It's always been one of those. I've always liked that community where it's like somebody comes in and it's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, I know. So, you know, and it's just.
Well, the music world really is like so much smaller than you think. I mean, I always meet people who are like, wait, you know this person and this person and this person. I'm like, yeah. And the voice just like multiplied that.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I just know so many people, which is great because after our season on The Voice, I feel like I gained so many friends, and so many of them live in Nashville, just like Andrew. And so I get to see them often, which is great. I gained so much, you know, I learned so much, but I also gained like the best friendships.
Yeah, for sure. It's good. Like, that's just good in general, good practice. So before we started doing the podcast, I was going through the various YouTube videos of through your journey on The Voice, and one of the judges, I don't remember exactly who it was now. Maybe it was Nick Jonas or John Legend. I think it was one of them too. They had kind of pointed out that it seemed like you were lacking confidence in your music and how you were performing. I think this was the battle rounds. Was that something that you struggled with early on in your career as far as like lacking confidence, or was it just the moment that you were just kind of nervous in the moment?
Yeah. Okay. So what a lot of people don't know is like, first of all, it's just you're overstimulated. There are cameras like running around you, and you're like, what is going on? And you're in this outfit that, you know, you're all dolled up, and you get one shot to get it. And if you mess up, it's on television for like however many million people. And so, yeah, I definitely got in my head a lot. And that was my biggest struggle of this season was just like wanting my voice to sound good, wanting my face to look okay, making sure my dress fits right, walking this way, not tripping in the shoes I'm wearing, like the cameraman's running around me. So it it was a lot, and it's hard not to get in your head when it's broadcasted for that many people. But I think I got so in my head after they said that I couldn't even focus on, like what I came there for, which was singing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I think that just kind of messed me up. And since, watching the season, I don't like to watch it just because I feel like I've grown so much after the show. Like I feel like I've grown so much that it's hard for me to watch. But I think, I put so much weight in experience. And then when you're outside of it, breathe a little, you're probably fine. You know what I mean? Like, so I just put a lot of pressure on myself, which I just do,
Yeah, I gotcha. And putting pressure on yourself, like it has its unfortunate side effects, but it kind of, for me, it always shows me what I'm made of. Like just the ability to persevere, or just kind of push through and get through it. Like you made it through, or to the knockouts, you made it to a live show. Like that's amazing. There's probably hundreds, well, not probably, there's hundreds of musicians from that season that wish they could even made it on the show, period. And you were able to make it to a live show. Just kind of going through that whole process of the audition and just being able to persevere, I think that's a really cool thing. And as far as like experiences taken away, was there any advice or anything that any of the coaches gave you that just kind of stuck with you?
Yeah, I remember Blake said to me at one point, he was like, "You're never going to be someone's backup singer, so stop acting like it." And I was like, oh, wow. Like it just affirmed for me, like, like you have what it takes now, like do it, like stop being scared, getting in your head. And so, yeah, I mean, what I really got out of the whole season was just to have more confidence, because I am where I'm supposed to be, and I do have what it takes. I just have to believe in myself.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of rolling out of The Voice into just starting to, and after The Voice, you started releasing your own music, correct? Or had you been releasing music and then you just kind of did a fresh restart after The Voice?
I released a worship EP under Emma Warren, which is my last name. So Emma Caroline was kind of like my name for The Voice and kind of my artist name here in Nashville. So after The Voice is when I released my first song under that name.
Gotcha. So you, after The Voice, you kind of did a rebrand to have a fresh thing to coming out, and you started releasing singles in 2021. You had Live, which it's. Do you consider Leave the Pieces the kind of the thing that's on the, what is it, on the Voice like playlist or whatever? Is that considered a release for you, or?
No, just because that's a cover, and yeah, I didn't. I recorded it there, so I like that it's there that people can listen to it. But it didn't feel like a release.
Yeah, I saw it on your like when your name comes up on Spotify, and I like open up your profile or whatever, it's there. So I didn't know if you like consider that a release, or if it's just, oh hey, something that I did, and yeah.
Yeah. No, it was fun because the night before our live show came on, our song, or all of our songs were released, so we all sat there and listened to them together, which was fun. Yeah, for sure. That's cool that you, like, everybody from the live show got together, and that's cool. That's really fun. That's just like bonding and just kind of putting the competition itself aside and just kind of bonding with each other as musicians. So, after that, you released Lie, and is this, what's kind of the, before we jump into the new single that you released actually it's been about a month. I just looked at the calendar. You started off with Lie. Why did you choose that song to be kind of your first single out as Emma Caroline? Well, so I actually wrote Lie when I was on The Voice, when I was in my hotel room. And it was just the first song. I've written so many songs, but I just felt like It was the first song that I was just super like proud of, and I just wanted so many people to hear it, and I felt like it was something that people could relate to. And yeah, I felt like it was like my sound, and just really like was everything that I am as an artist. And I just loved the way that it sounded and what it was about. And I loved that I did write it on The Voice, and coming home from The Voice, releasing something that I had written there just felt right.
Nice. And was there a music video for Lie, or is it just kind of the standalone single?
No, I've actually never done a music video. So
Okay.
maybe next year, maybe this year, who knows?
Gotcha. And so then you released another single, I Don't Need, which was also during 2021. But back in August, you released Breakthrough, which is an amazing song. I've had a chance to listen to it several times as I've been preparing for this podcast for the last couple days. I really enjoy it. It's an amazing song. What's the overall story of Breakthrough?
Yeah, this song probably means the most to me. When I first moved to Nashville, I just went through a very, very difficult situation and time. And it was one of those times in my life that I was just kind of like, why is this happening to me? How am I going to get through this? What is the good that could ever come out of this? Like, I just, wrong place, wrong time. Like, what? I don't understand. Why me? And I was just like, how do I make it out of this? And like through that, I was able to see like that those circumstances, these hard things that we go through in life, are what like shapes us into who we are and what makes us ultimately stronger as a person. And so I was able to get together with my producer, and he was going through a pretty rough divorce, and we kind of wrote this song out of different places, but out of the same like just heartache. Yeah, like not heartache, because mine wasn't like a heartbreak or anything, but just we were just hurting, and we just wrote it from that place. So I think people can kind of pin it on their certain circumstance, what it may be, and hopefully it's a hopeful song for people.
Nice. And how long have you been I hate saying the phrase sitting on this song, because it just sounds like you don't want to release it, but how long has the song been in the works?
It's actually, so I released it this past August, but I recorded it the August before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I just remember like after this session just being like, whoa, like that felt so good. The producer just pushed me a lot, and it was cool because we wrote the song, but then recording it, we were like, oh, let's add a key change. Let's add this, like, let's do this here. It was really fun. And it took some time to get it right, because he's in Texas. And he wanted to come here, and we got some musicians to play on it here. And so it was just kind of a process. And then once it was done, the part that I hate the most, which is the cover art, I had to think of what I wanted to do for that. And, then you got to push it to distribution, and that takes a couple weeks for it to get out. So it was a process.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people think musicians, all they have to worry about is writing the song and recording it. But no, especially on the independent level, there's 800 other things that you have to think about even before recording the song. And then once you record the song, there's 800 more things that you have to worry about before releasing it. And
especially like promoting these days, because social media is so big. It's just like doing it independently and coming up with all those ideas and not like just annoying the heck out of people is like, can be difficult. But it's definitely so much more than people realize, like releasing a song. It's a lot of work on the musician, not, more than people I think realize.
Yeah, it's a whole process. As like kind of going into the studio to record Breakthrough, you'd mentioned that your producer is based out of Texas. Where is it based out of, like Dallas or more East Texas?
Houston.
Houston? Okay.
Yeah.
And that he wanted to come to Nashville to record with you. What's a typical recording session like for you? What's a typical recording session like?
So that one, we recorded vocals and piano in Texas. And then after listening through it, like just a rough, take, we kind of talked about parts and like, do we want strings on this? Well, if we want strings on this, do we want it to be live streams or strings, or is it fine to be on the computer? And like for this, we just wanted it to all be pretty live, and so I got to sit in on the strings being recorded, which is really cool, and then I sat in on drums being recorded here in Nashville. And but yeah, so a typical recording session though, you record the thing like so many times in so many different parts so many times, and then you have to layer it, so you have to sing it again, then you have to think about harmonies. I mean, it could take forever. Or if you're having a great day, then like it doesn't take that long, but it's just a lot of singing the same thing. And by the end of it, my voice was so tired that I don't know if you know the trick of musicians eating potato chips, and it like the grease really helps like your throat and your vocal cords. Like it just kind of like, I don't know. But they went and got me potato chips, and I was able to push that last part out. And I was like, any excuse to eat a snack, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just an interesting little tidbit.
I think I need to start eating more potato chips then, especially with this, because like early on when I started doing the podcast early on, I struggled with like vocal strain because I wasn't used to talking as much as I was, like especially in a podcast setting. And that's a neat little trick. I'll have to try that out.
Grab your Lay's potato chips plain. They'll help you. I'm telling you.
I love it.
Breakthrough should be sponsored by Lay's.
Yes. I would. That's funny. So kind of now that it's been Breakthrough's been out for about a month, what's going through your mind? Where's your head at as far as like music goes? Are you already thinking about the next release, or where are you kind of at?
Definitely. I have a couple songs that I'm super excited to release. I've never released a fast song, so I am ready. I have a song that's a little like sassy. It's called Salty. I've posted it several times, but I'm just excited to get that side out, and that fun side and the little sassy side, and have like more of like an upbeat, and show people that side of me and my voice and stuff. So already thinking about that.
Nice. Is it something that's already been recorded, or going to be recorded?
I'm laying down a demo for it at the end of September. So
okay, nice. So obviously your previous releases have all been singles. Are you looking at the prospect of doing a full album, or do you kind of like where the industry's at right now and staying in the singles lane?
For now, I think I'm going to stay in the singles lane. I've thought about an EP and just releasing, 4 songs at a time with like similar vibes, but I don't know. I don't want any of my songs to get lost in the shuffle if I release a lot at one time.
Yeah, that's, I've heard a lot of musicians talk in that manner of like releasing full bodies of work. It like your music kind of gets lost, and instead of spreading the wealth, so to speak, you're releasing everything at once, and then 3 months later it's like, oh hey, we kind of want new music,
Right, exactly. So,
but and I think that's just kind of the algorithm that is Spotify, where it's like, oh, let's stay with the singles, let's because we can keep you, and it makes it look like you're releasing more frequently, which technically you are. You're just not releasing as much, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Totally. Yeah. And I think you're able to kind of build like excitement around one song, and then, people play that song for a while. And then when they get bored, then you just like, here's another one, and here's another one. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun. Yeah,
for sure. As far as like writing and just being able to write, how often do you write? Are you just kind of always writing, or do you go through phases? What's your kind of writing?
I try to write, like with people and stuff, probably 2-3 times a week, just because I like to keep my brain, keep it going and keep it fresh. I'm all the time like, I'll get my phone and like jot down like an idea, or someone will say something and I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea for a song. So I think it's always going ahead, lines and stuff. My voice memos, there are like so many of those. So.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Cool. So Breakthrough out now. It's up on Spotify, all that fun stuff. Outside of music, though, what's kind of your thing? What do you do outside of music to relax, to, kind of escape from the pressures of everyday life?
Yeah, so I love to work out and cook, and I love to go on walks with my friends. I mentioned earlier, but I love to read, which is kind of nerdy, but I love it. But yeah, if it involves being with my friends or my family, I'm there.
No, that's cool though. I don't know. I've started to realize that reading seems to be a very common thing amongst musicians. Like, for whatever reason, I didn't think reading would be a common thread, but for whatever reason, now I'm just starting to realize that as I enter episode 500 and whatever it is of the podcast, that reading's starting to become a common thread.
It's just relaxing to me. It's fun to like dive into a story.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I don't want to keep you too much longer tonight, and with all the random technical issues we've been having, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you more in the future about all the great music you got coming up in the coming months, years, all the fun stuff. If you're anybody that's listening to us live, make sure you check out Breakthrough. It'll be, if you're listening to us live on Twitch, the link to Breakthrough is in the comment thread. But if you're listening to us on the podcast feed, Breakthrough will be in the in the description of the podcast. Yep, that's the word I was looking for. But once again, Emma, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to continue to support Live and Amplified, please give us a follow or visit us at liveandamplified.net. You can find all our socials and all that fun stuff. Emma Caroline, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. We will see you all on Sunday. Yes, Sunday morning.